Good afternoon. Looks like we've got a full house here, and the House is full and the Senate's full. So we have a lot of people here to celebrate this great day on behalf of our 106th Justice, Stephen David. His legal career has been extraordinary, and it's no surprise that we're over capacity today. It seemed like they're having a lot of fun down there in the House and Senate, so don't let them overshadow us in here. I'm talking to you, McNamara. Let's get going. So the members of the court, we just went to both the chambers and recognized them, and we're excited to be here today. They're all down there cheering for you, Steve, as we are up here. In a moment, I'll introduce several guests joining us for the ceremony, but I really want to begin with Reverend Robert Fuqua. Justice David invited him, and he will come forward and give an invocation to us. Reverend Fuqua.
Thank you, Justice Rush. It is a great honor for me to be here and to open us in prayer today. I also have the added privilege of sharing in Justice David's first act in full duty retirement in a few weeks, when we will share a faith pilgrimage together to Israel and Greece, and I'll be glad to report back to you how well he's doing at not getting on email and checking his phone every few minutes. So let us pray. Gracious and loving God, send your Spirit upon us as we gather this afternoon to recognize and honor your servant, Justice Stephen David, for his years of distinguished service to the people of Indiana. We thank you for his military service, for the more than tens of thousands of cases he presided over as a trial judge, and the many hundreds more as a Supreme Court justice, and for his driving passion to improve the lives of children. As family, friends, and colleagues who've come today to celebrate the many accomplishments, values, and contributions of Justice David, may you help us see how these characteristics reflect your own will and hope for our world. For you are a God who desires justice and protection of your children, and an equal sharing in the blessings of this world for all people. Be with us now and bless us, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. Well, my colleagues up here, Justice Mark Massa, Jeffrey Slaughter, Christopher Koff, join me in welcoming Steve David's family, his wife, U.S. Navy Commander Catherine Pulley, his friends, former law clerks, colleagues. Justice David will make some introductions to those individuals later. Steve likes to tell people he's from Ogleville, but I think that looking at the people that are here today, not only is Ogleville probably shut down, as is Boone County and most of Bartholomew County. Again, such a testament to your superb character that people came from all over the state to join us today. Justice David has served with 8 justices, many of them here today, and I'd like to introduce them, starting with the Chief Justice when he joined the court, former Chief Justice Randall Shepard. If you'd wave and just kind of hold your applause to the end. Former Chief Justice Brent Dixon, Justice Sullivan, Justice Boehm at the last minute could not be here, but he sends his thoughts today. And we have former Justice Myra Selby. Welcome, Myra. Justice Rucker, we talked, and I know you're watching. Hello, Justice Rucker. We learned so much from you, so thank you for joining us remotely. As you know, Justice David was appointed by Governor Daniels to fill the vacancy when Ted Boehm retired. So 12 years ago, in October, Governor Daniels spoke in this courtroom at his investiture. He talked about how the task of sitting on the state's highest court was only for the finest individuals to be considered. He admitted here that he didn't know. He had never met Justice David before he applied, and he was delighted to learn. So I went back and watched that ceremony again, getting ready for today. And this is what Governor Daniels said. I never doubted as I came to study Judge David's record, talk to him personally, hear from the commission and others who had input to offer, that in a few years, Indiana would know that one of its finest had ever come to this position. Like so many things, Mitch Daniels was spot on about Justice David. You are one of the finest. From the Court of Appeals today, we have many of our hardworking judges joining us, including Chief Judge Cale Bradford, Patricia Riley, Judge Mark Bailey, Judge Melissa May, Judge Margaret Robb, Judge Nancy Vadic, Judge Paul Mathias, Judge Elaine Brown, Judge Rudolph Pyle, Judge Robert Altice, Judge Elizabeth Tavitas, and Judge Leanne Weissman. And the justice designee, who will soon be seated right here, will be sworn in early this Thursday morning, 8:15, Derek Mulder. From the Court of Appeals here today, we also have some retired judges that have been just wonderful supports to all of us, including Justice David, John Baker, Carr Darden, and Edward Najum Jr. I'd like to recognize a few others in attendance who work for the court. Our Chief Administrative Officer, Justin Faulkner, along with many of our directors. We'll be hearing from Justin later. We have Justice David's longtime, loyal, hardworking assistant, Sandy Knox. U.S. Representative Greg Pence. Thank you for the other elected officials that are also here today. We appreciate it. Representative Jerry Torr, Representative Wendy McNamara, Representative Greg Sturwald. We have from the Senate, we have President Pro Tem Roderick Bray, welcome, and Michael Kreider. We have Auditor Tara Klutz. You do such a good job at coming to our ceremonies, thank you, and signing our paychecks. State leaders, Justice David likes to talk to them as our justice partners. Dave Bodoff, Bernice Corley, Chris Naylor. We have Joe Herons and his all-star team, Sharon Jackson, Mike Nossett, and we have the former Cynthia Carrasco, who has done a lot of work for us over the years. Law school deans, Karen Bravo and Andy Klein, welcome and thank you for coming. Our friends from the federal bench, thank you. We promise to get you out of here 4:30 if all goes well. It's a standing joke with the federal when we go to their ceremonies. We have looked at our watches in the past. We have Judge Sarah Evans Barker, Judge Holly Brady, Judge David Hamilton, Jane Magnus Stinson, Judge Robin Moberly, and Judge James Sweeney. We have the former and current members of our excellent Judicial Nominating Commission who do so much of the work that get us sitting up here. I'm very proud of the system we have in Indiana. We have John Feitner, Katie Glick, Danny Lopez, Tony Patterson, John Tremble, William Winningham, and Holly Wojak. We also have today, I believe, Lee Christie's with us as well. We have so many of our trial court judges sitting over there, and I welcome all of you as being part of us today. So I'd like to, at this time, talk about some full circle moments. 12 years ago, when Justice David took the oath and joined the court, Colonel Kermit Lowry was here to speak. He quoted John F. Kennedy and the commitment to our nation to pay any price, bear any burden, and assure the survival of liberty. You have done that throughout your career, including your 28-year military career, tours of duty in Iraq and Guantanamo. You retired as a highly decorated colonel in the United States Army. And so it's with a lot of pride we stand here together with you, Justice David, for the Pledge of Allegiance in gratitude to this great nation and as a moment of reflection for your many years of service. Your friend, retired U.S. Army Colonel Kermit Lowry, will you lead us in the pledge? I invite you to the podium.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Please stand, and may I ask the House and the Senate to also join us in standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Lowry. At this time, when Justice David announced he'd be retiring, it was amazing the outpouring of support from the trial bench throughout the state. It's sort of been a last sort of tour that he's had with our trial court judges. And we have many representatives from the bench and bar here today that he played such a huge part in the relationships with them and getting this done. He first went on the bench in 1994. He has served the robe well. He understands the triumphs and the challenges and sometimes the tragedies sitting as a trial court judge. He's incredibly supportive of our trial court judges throughout the state. He asked the Indiana Judges Association President Darren Dolahanty to come and really show the appreciation of the trial bench for Justice David. Judge Delahanty, please come to the podium.
Thanks, Chief, and good afternoon. A long time ago, not surprisingly, in a judicial conference far, far away, Judge, at that time, Steve David from Boone County, made a presentation to a group of juvenile court judges, and I was fortunate enough to be in the seats that day. And the theme that he sent was that it's not only okay, but it's an essential part of being an effective judge to step out from behind the bench and do much more than just rule on cases. The message was get involved, join committees, make public connections, educate, speak up, sign up, problem solve, embrace initiatives, find ways to make our profession that much better. And through his career, he's been no hypocrite. He follows this advice, this challenge that he makes to all of us every day himself. And as a result, he leaves the bench having made our attorneys and our judges and our state that much better. So everyone in the room probably knows that Justice David provides his personal cell phone number to everyone he can and encourages them to contact him at any time about any topic. You might also know he's a fan of country music and has a penchant for quoting song lyrics, even while maybe changing them a little bit to suit the message he wants to send to a particular audience. So in that vein, and realizing I'm setting a low watermark for the balance of today's speakers, and with apologies to Willie Nelson, maybe we didn't call you quite as often as we could have. And maybe we didn't text you quite as good as we should have. If it made you feel second best when another justice got our text, you were always on our mind, sir. You were always on our mind. Oh, there's more. And maybe we didn't thank you for recruiting us into JDAI. And I guess we never told you, thanks for chairing the Commission on Equity and Access and the Youth Justice Oversight Commission and the dozens of other commissions and committees. Little things that you've said and done, somehow you've always had the time. Thanks for shaping our minds. So, on behalf of the Indiana Judges Association and the thousands of lawyers and judges you personally helped throughout your career, heartfelt congratulations. Love you, man. Job well done.
Love you, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Delahanty. So as much as the trial court judges admired Justice David, the sentiment is true with practitioners. His devotion to constantly supporting and improving our profession is felt by many members of the Bar Association. Earlier this year, the Indiana Bar Foundation, representing here today by Chuck Dunlap, honored him with a Legend Award. And today, appreciation continues to pour in from lawyers with today's presentation from the Indiana State Bar Association Executive Director Joe Skeel and President Clayton Miller. Joe and Clayton, please come to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chief Justice, and may it please the court, distinguished guests. Steve David has had a long and impactful affiliation with your Indiana State Bar Association, dating back to well before becoming Justice David on this august court.
I'm not dying, Clay.
You better not be. We've got more work for you. I first got to know Steve when we both served on the ISBA Board of Governors in 2007, appointed by our friend and my predecessor, Rich Enan, back there from Columbus. Over the intervening years, he has stepped up time and again, whenever asked, lending his time and talent without reservation to, as has already been alluded, elevate our profession as well as our association. With his blend of personal warmth, accessibility, humor, and thoughtful commitment, Justice David has made a lasting impact on the Indiana Bar, and although he is stepping down from his role as justice, he will remain an attorney and a friend, and apparently a senior judge, too, I learned today. I only have time to cite two examples of his commitment to the Bar Association that really stand out among the many. First, he was not only present at the inception over a decade ago of our Leadership Development Academy for early career lawyers from across the state, but he has played an integral role in that program's implementation, helping to lead and fully engaging with the number of participants in every LDA class over the last 10 years. And I see a few alums out here in the audience who I know can attest to his positive contributions to their experience. The second example is his co-hosting with Anka Henshaw, who I believe is also here somewhere, of the ISBA's award-winning Open Conversations web series, taking a hard and candid look at considerations of race and bias within the legal profession. His able facilitation of these sensitive discussions led to meaningful insights and increased understanding of why it remains not just important, but essential for those of us involved in the justice system as lawyers and judges to confront bias in its many resilient facets. Thank you, Justice David, for helping open our eyes to present reality and for your efforts to guide us to a more perfect union. Our Executive Director, Joe Skeel, who's here with me, asked me to identify recently a few potential candidates for an annual presidential citation, which is one of the prerogatives of the role I'm holding for just a couple more months. Those are presented at our summit in mid-October, and Steve, your name immediately came to mind. I hate to break it to you, however, but you're not going to get one this year. I decided to pass by Steve for this discretionary accolade, not because he wasn't deserving, but because after vetting various names with Joe, I learned that Steve has already received a presidential citation. In fact, not just one, not just two, not just three. He's got at least 4 presidential citations from my predecessors, including just this past year from my esteemed predecessor, Michael Tolbert. So instead, Your Honor, as a token of our appreciation and gratitude, as well as of our affection and esteem, I'm pleased to present you on behalf of the Indiana State Bar Association, including the many past presidents who are here with us as well today, this original sketch of the Supreme Court by Boone County artist Barb Getty. May it serve as a reminder not only of your time on this high court, but also of your many years of service to the legal profession. Godspeed in your next chapter, and don't be a stranger.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe and Clayton. So Justice David has served as a role model to so many professionals. It's always fun to watch him in the hallway. 4th graders, any of you 4th graders come through the state building, they would always find him and he would be regaling them with stories. He mentored many through, I don't think there's a mentorship program that we have in Indiana for the legal profession that you've not served as a mentor. He has been involved in high school mock trial competitions, sort of bringing up that next generation of lawyers. He has been an adjunct professor at IU McKinney, Notre Dame, and University of Indianapolis, where he has taught both U.S. students and international students that really to ingrain in them that public service ethos that he has just in spades. He welcomes externs into his chamber every semester. He's a proud supporter of the very important ICLEO program. So many, I can't even imagine the young people that have been inspired to get into public service based on you as an example and you as a mentor. You've had 11 law clerks. Their photographs hang in his office. He considers them family. So today we're going to hear from one former law clerk, Justin Faulkner, who will be paying tribute, and it's sort of a real circle of life moment from Justin's favorite movie, The Lion King, that he will be up here giving comments on behalf of his work, not only as an intern, as a law clerk in his chambers, but also with regard to being the chief administrative officer of our fine branch of government. Justin.
Thank you, ma'am, for that and for not playing the theme song. Good afternoon. My name is Justin Faulkner. It's nice to see you all, and thank you all for being here. I have the humble privilege today to speak to you and to you, Justice David, as a former law clerk and legal advisor, and as the Chief mentioned, as a graduate of Leadership Development Academy and as a member of our exceptional court administration. It's certainly my honor to do so. As I thought about what to say, sir, and how to express the impact you've had on my life and the lives of the people I stand here to represent, I thought maybe it would be fun to start where it began, with some of the first words of wisdom you imparted to me, a young veteran just leaving law school. November 29th, 2010, dear Justin. I appreciate very much your taking the time to interview. I enjoyed meeting you and certainly would have been pleased to have you in my chambers, but it appears I will not be in a position to offer you a clerkship. I will be interviewing again in January. So I took that to heart, and it led me to February 3rd, 2011, dear Justin. I appreciate very much you taking the time to interview. I enjoyed meeting you and certainly would have been pleased to have you in my chambers. You were super qualified, but so anyway, it kind of goes on like that. And that's okay. There are no grudges. Seema Shah, John Rogers, thank you very much. We're all adults here. But if there is one lesson I'd like you all to take away from that exchange, it's this. It's that Justice David, it turns out, the man of triathlons and marathons and mountains, does actually have a breaking point, and it is the third clerkship application. But the serious truth, sir, is those people you hired were phenomenal young lawyers and friends, and you made them better lawyers and better people that I still look up to today. Because that's what you did for all of us, clerks, LDA, and staff. You made us all better, you taught us, and you led us by example, and that's what I want everyone to hear. You showed us that what we do takes time and effort, that serving, whatever the capacity, was sacrifice and not a 9-to-5 job. I don't know how you did it, and none of us do. It's like your days were 34 hours long instead of 24. But you never backed down from a challenge. You never said no to an opportunity to help, to coach, to teach, or to mentor. You stepped up and threw everything you had into everything you did. You were there for anyone and everyone who needed you. And you inspired us to push ourselves harder for others because you reminded us that none of us got where we are by ourselves. We have to rely on one another and to help one another. We have to pay it back and pay it forward however long that takes. And during the Leadership Development Academy, Justice Rucker, I'm glad you're watching here today, challenged us all to show up, speak up, and shake it up. It was a charge to do the right thing, whether it was easy or hard and no matter the cost, and for no more complicated reason than that's just the right thing to do. And we watched you do that too, time and again. You refused to accept that things must always be the way they are just because that's the way they've always been. Not if there's a better way, and even if that means steeling ourselves to hard conversations and reinventing how we see ourselves, our world, and our court systems. You had the personal courage to look at something that's unfair or unjust and say that's not good enough. You were never afraid to say we can do better, but you'd never say that without first saying I can do better. Because in doing everything you did, what motivated you wasn't your own power or authority or privilege. You wore your rank and your robe not as prizes, but as the solemn uniforms of a person responsible to help others achieve more. They reflected your desire to live up to the ideals of our history and make those ideals equally accessible and attainable today to all. You also taught us to honor our professional reputations and the reputations of our professions. You gave us creeds and reminded us of our oaths and why we took them. Wherever we'd been, whatever we did, you held our paths in high esteem and told us to do the same for ourselves and others. You told us to take the high road, to act with integrity, and to respect one another and our values. And you always carried your honor humbly, with strength but not hubris, because being humble isn't being meek. Being humble doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less. Humility is inherently selfless, you showed us, and selfless service isn't meek or weak. It's a stronger drive than any personal ambition or motivation. And that humility, I think, also fueled your belief that even though we should take our work and our service seriously, we couldn't take ourselves too seriously. You made equal space in your life for balance and let us do the same. Your loyalty made us part of your family. Thank you, Catherine Pulley. And encouraged us to pursue what made us happy. You told us to follow our passions and enjoy ourselves in the days we have. You, in turn, followed along as our families and careers grew and celebrated our successes and lives. And when it got hard or the days were dark, you were always there with a smile, a warm word and a touch of humor, and the reminder that it's okay to not be okay. It's a lifetime of lessons that I've tried my best to distill into a few minutes of speech. But you've already done it, far better than I ever could. Work hard, do good, be proud, have fun. Sir, you didn't come this far to come this far. You still have trails to blaze, mountains to climb, and miles to go. But as you do, please keep your eyes front and forward. Don't look back and don't worry, because your legacy is not those 8 words. Your legacy is what those words embodied in your deeds, instilled in those of us fortunate enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. Your legacy is in this room and across the state and the lives you've helped shape and guide. The young lawyers, the new judges, the court professionals, and so many others. We owe you more than I have time to describe, but I'll begin with a promise. We have the watch. We'll take it from here. You've made sure we're prepared to advance the legacies of John Adams, Belva Lockwood, Macon Allen, and Steve David, and we will remember the rule of law always. The military's first general order says, I will guard everything within the limits of my post and quit my post only when properly relieved. It means you carry on your duty, unrelenting, until someone comes to take it from you, to carry it forward. I've spoken today, sir, on behalf of your law clerks, legal advisors, LDA graduates, and our staff. I've also spoken as a colleague and friend. Now, sir, I do so from one soldier to another. Thank you for your service. Justice David, sir, you are relieved.
Well done, Justin Faulkner. Justice David is always the first to give praise to others. That includes his talented wife. At this time, Catherine Pulley, would you like to come forward and give a few marks about your husband?
I know that I was going to be stuck in after Justin Faulkner. I might have not said, hey, I'd like to say just 1 or 2 quick words. And Catherine said, can you keep it to 2 minutes? Yes, I can. But I wanted to tell a story that actually Justin kind of alluded to that I feel I'm uniquely qualified to tell, and that's a story about his days as Chief Defense Counsel at Guantanamo Bay. And I'm sure many of you have heard the stories about how he interviewed for this job and how he got lost in the Pentagon and went to the wrong place, and he was late for his interview with the, who did you interview with?
General Counsel for the Secretary of Defense.
That's right, General Counsel for the Secretary of Defense. And so he was late and he showed up at the wrong place, and they kept telling him, don't worry, you're not going to get selected. And if you, of course, Steve David will tell you that if anybody in the Pentagon says don't worry, then you should probably worry. But there was actually a lot of buzz when he got selected, particularly among members of the media, and they decided that they probably knew why he was selected, because he was an elected judge in a Republican county in a small town in Indiana, and they assumed that the reason he was selected was that he would roll over and let the government do what it needed to do to get these trials moving. But of course, we know he did not roll over. I'll give the Secretary of Defense the benefit of the doubt that he saw what Mitch Daniels would later see: a champion for the rule of law, for fairness, for doing what's right, even when it's really, really hard. And I got to tell you, I was there. Being the Chief Defense Counsel at Guantanamo Bay was really, really hard. But he gave it his best, as he's always done. And I think everybody in this room and the 2 rooms watching and everybody watching online, hopefully Mom and Dad, I think we're all better for whatever we call him: Judge David, Justice David, Grandpa David, Grandpa Steve, Stevie, Stephen, friend, partner. We're all better for whatever we call him, and I call him my husband, and I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander Pulley. There's a tradition on the court.
That was unplanned, too. I didn't know anything about that.
We did.
No, I didn't.
There's a tradition on the court that the newest justice speaks first, and you've got to think what Steve David walked into. Justice Rucker had been the newest justice for 11 years, so 2 doors down is a conference room where we sit on Thursdays and go case after case after case. So Justice David showed up ready to go, and Chief Justice Shepard told me the story. Justice Rucker, old habits die hard, and so it would be time for the newest justice to speak, and Justice Rucker would chime in and start telling what he thought about a case, and Steve would let it go on for a little while. So finally, when he got his voice, he goes, "What am I, chopped liver?" So thank you, Justice Rucker. But I do appreciate that, and Justice Designee Moulter, we're looking forward to that this Thursday. So in that tradition, our colleagues all wanted to speak some words on Justice David's behalf, and we will start with our newest colleague, Justice Goff.
Thank you, Chief. When you take this job, you become accustomed to public speaking, but I have to confess, encapsulating my thoughts about Steve David in a minute or two is one of the toughest speaking assignments I've ever had. My first recollection of Steve was much like my friend Judge Dolahanty's. Steve appeared at a new judges training that I had the privilege of attending, and he was held out to new Indiana judges as an example of what it meant to be an effective judicial officer. And I really tried to take everything that he shared with us to heart. Over the years, I attended a number of other trainings that Steve helped to put on. And when I was fortunate enough to be selected to serve with him on the Indiana Supreme Court, the chief assigned him to be my mentor. And so in the 5+ years that I've served on the Indiana Supreme Court, I've spent about every day in some kind of contact with Justice David. And, you know, I could spend a few moments and tell you he's Superman, because he is. You know, if you were an Ironman competitor, somebody who's completed multiple Ironmans like Steve, if you'd attained the rank of full colonel in the United States Army like Steve, or if, my goodness, you'd been entrusted, as Catherine just alluded to, with the awesome responsibility of really guarding the rule of law for Western civilization at one of the times when it was probably the most under threat. You know, you were worthy of highest praise. But what I wanted to share with Steve and with all of you is that he's really better than advertised, and he's advertised a lot. I would feel comfortable sharing absolutely the most intimate details of my life with Steve, because he made me realize that it's important to be vulnerable as a public servant. He made me realize that it's important to serve sacrificially. He did it every day of his life. I'll let him share with you the details if he chooses to, but those experiences that Catherine alluded to are things that he felt to his bones, and most people simply would not have been able to handle all the pressures that he's handled in his life, and he's handled them with such dignity and grace. I am humbled to have had the opportunity to serve with Steve David on the Indiana Supreme Court for 5+ years, but I'm much more humbled to realize that Steve's one of the best friends I've ever had. And I'm going to miss you more than I can possibly express. But at the same time, Steve, I'm just so very happy for you. And I'm so proud of you that you made the choice when you did to go and be a husband and to complement the service that Commander Pulley is undertaking right now, keeping us all safe, which is no surprise with your family. But Steve, it's just been my great pleasure, my great honor to serve with you. And I thank you for everything that you've invested in me, But more importantly, I thank you for everything that you've truly invested in humanity. We're all better because you've been here, and I look forward to seeing what's next for you. So thank you, brother. I love you.
Love you too.
Justice Slaughter.
These occasions are always bittersweet. We celebrate the distinguished career of a longtime public servant, and we say goodbye to a faithful friend and colleague. Of course, the good news is that Justice David's departure is not due to death or illness or because he's reached the age the legislature tells all of us it's time to move on. He's leaving on his schedule, on his terms, to start his journey. And a key part of that journey will be spending more time with his beloved Catherine. As many of you know, Justice David has kept a schedule that never quits, not only here in the State House, but around the state and nation. Just in Indiana, he's been to every corner of the state many times over in the last dozen years. He is tireless and travels as much or more than many of his colleagues combined, myself included. He leads CLE programs, hosts bar events, mentors younger lawyers and judges, you name it, spreading the gospel of the important role and responsibility of lawyers in our society. Now, as you've heard, a key chapter in the Gospel of David is the rule of law always, his unofficial trademark. It's featured prominently in the back of today's program, and in practice it means that he always wants to ensure that the litigants who come before us are treated fairly and receive justice dispensed impartially. He isn't just a first-rate judge or colleague, he's also a first-rate human being, always willing to offer a kind word or deed for family, friends, even strangers. Now, 6 years ago this month, in this courtroom, I had my investiture. As I was introducing my family, I got to my father-in-law and briefly told his story. A black man born in the Jim Crow South, couldn't attend his hometown University of Virginia, was a career Army officer, fought in Korea and Vietnam, won 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star. And as I'm telling my father-in-law's story, Justice David, whose own military career was highly distinguished, suddenly jumps from the bench and starts clapping. And of course, the entire room followed his lead in standing and applauding this 86-year-old gentleman in his wheelchair. It was a lovely, unsolicited, spontaneous gesture for a man he had never met. I'm unsure if Justice David remembers that, but I do. And so does our family, because it meant the world to my father-in-law, who himself remembered that until the day he died. It's things like that, those gestures, that define Steve David and tell you what kind of man he is. Steve, I will miss you, and so will your colleagues on our court, throughout the judiciary, and our profession. Godspeed to you and to Catherine.
Well, this is a really hard moment to bid farewell to my colleague of 10 and a half years on this court, and to know that you'll come up short in the moment when everything that needs to be said about Steve David has been said in this room. Justin, your words were just spectacular and captured much of what I wanted to say this afternoon. I guess I'll try to put a civilian's gloss on them. Been thinking a lot about my friend and colleague Steve David, particularly in the last few weeks as September approaches, and for some reason a column kept popping into my head. I can't remember where I read it. I don't know who wrote it. It was probably sometime 10 or 15 years ago, but it was a working journalist, and he had just attended his son's graduation from West Point. And he was proud. I mean, who wouldn't be? He was overwhelmed by the magnitude of the ceremony and what he had seen. But what moved him most was the realization that day that the oath his son was taking meant that literally the lives of enlisted men and women would be in his hands. That he was taking the most solemn oath a man or woman could take to be an officer. And it was a take on being an officer that, frankly, had never occurred to me as a civilian. It never occurred to me at 22 to take the path Steve David took. But I think the reason that essay kept popping up in my mind is because it explains everything about Steve David. He lives his life with the values of an officer, and he's brought them to our court, right? He has always kept the five of us. The court as an institution, the legal system across Indiana, foremost in mind as something to be nurtured and protected. And we are all the better for it. And I hope that just a bit of it may have rubbed off. But thank you so much for that, Steve. Godspeed to you, my friend. Congratulations.
Thank you, Justice Massa. Well, I've known Steve David a long time, and I know a lot about him. And I know one of the things, he likes lists. If you go in Steve's office, you're going to see lists. He likes top 10 lists. So I thought I'd put together 10 things that I think as a court we've learned from Steve David during time together. Uh-oh. Some good, some are good. He always made the effort. We have long schedules. We'll have 3 oral arguments. We'll have conference where we'll discuss 30 to 40 cases, attorney discipline cases. And then where are you going, Steve? I'm going to Bartholomew County. I'm going to Porter County. I'm going to Lake County. I'm going to Howard County. I'm going to a Veterans Court graduation. I'm going to a ceremony. He showed up. He always made time to be present for a trial court, not just the trial court judges, but to the litigants. Do you know what it was like when Justice David would show up at a Veterans Court graduation? It's something. His loyalty to bar associations. There was never an initiative that where you talk about, let's look at this, let's look at electronic filing, let's look at, expanding Odyssey, let's look at equity and access, let's look at court access, where he didn't say we need to have the bar association at the table. And that's become the norm. Don't do an initiative without looking at what's going on with the local bar. The practitioners are important, and we need to hear their voice with regard to what we're doing. And he reminded us of that time and time again. His treatment of lawyers. And I'm going to use oral argument as an example. There's always a good Steve David line from oral argument. We could talk about those. That could be a CLE. But I always appreciate his kindness to lawyers. He would always preface a lot of questions with, help me understand. And I thought that was such a nice way of getting the attorneys at ease, because it's not easy sitting there arguing to us. And we learned that. His unseen act of kindness to staff. You don't get to see him put on a costume with donuts a-flying over at the Cap Center building. And of the 250 employees that we have working for us, there's not one that doesn't know him, that he's not engaged with. They had a celebration for him yesterday, and it was something. He's a big thinker. The cases that we have come before us apply not just to the case before us, but apply to future cases. We spent thousands of hours together, the 5 of us around that table, deciding what the law should look like in Indiana. And everyone that sat around that table with Steve David is better for that. He takes great pride in the accomplishments of others. He's a wild texter, right? I mean, it can be just a little something and you'll get a text from him on that. And I love the pride he takes in Commander Pulley. I love watching the pride he took even before this last assignment with regard to what you did for the state bar, with regard to you working together on the LDA and mentoring that. It's a wonderful example for all of us. His sense of humor, he is funny. I never tell him that, but you really are funny.
Really?
Yes, your sense of humor. You know, it could be a particularly tough day of conference. It could be a court case. It could be something else. And the cases we have are tough and long and hard, and you see some of the worst of humanity that come in these cases. And he can bring us back, and it's an art. Our work is serious. It's incredibly serious, and it should be. But he's authentic and approachable. And the idea that those of us in the Indiana Supreme Court sit on an ivory tower, he has busted that by showing us the example and being approachable. His impact on the profession goes beyond the borders. He's received, and you probably don't even know all the national awards he's won with regard to, they talked about his Boone County accomplishments. He has won awards with regard to helping children. He has chaired the Appellate Judges Education Institute. I can hardly go anywhere in the country where somebody hasn't been impacted. So it's gone beyond our borders. 9, I'm getting down to the end, so you know. 9, he's mentally strong. He takes that 65-year-old body of his and does Ironman. So it's whether taking an impossibly difficult case, and he loves getting cases. When it comes to assigning cases, his hand's always up. But he'll tell you, I mean, there's times that he's swimming in like Lake Erie and there's waves in the Ohio. I said, you know, we need you, Steve. Don't do it, but you still do it. And I want you to remember, hear that voice of mine in your head saying, don't do it. I mean, it was like a storm in Lake Erie, and I think, you know, we worked, we had conference, we had hearings, and he goes off there and does that. But it's that mental strength that gets him through those tough opinions, the work on the court, in the Ironman, and it'll take him up to the top of Kilimanjaro here soon. And finally, you're just not done. You know, this has been sort of a long goodbye, and there's been countless times he'll come up to me and say, what else can I do? I'll help you with ICLEO for a while. I'll help with regard to the equity and access. I'll finish that out as chair. When the legislature came and said, we really want to do a juvenile justice oversight, he said, oversight to really make sure we're doing right by our kids that come into our criminal justice system. He said, put me in, coach. So his work for the administration of justice lives on. You have been my right-hand man, and I can't thank you enough. Godspeed, Steve David. Okay, Justice David, the floor is yours, and unlike this year's State of the Judiciary, I'm not going to give you a word count.
Well, everybody else is, so I'll try to make this as brief as possible, and I have some comments, but who cares about those. You know, it is true I was a ROTC scholarship student, and I tell you this just because I want to focus on, first of all, situational awareness from my perspective up here. So I was pretty good, and distinguished military grad, and everyone that goes to one of the academies gets a regular Army commission. The rest of us that are ROTC graduates, they hand out just a couple of regular Army commissions throughout the country. And I was going to get one at Murray State, and I was scheduled to go to Air Assault School, then Airborne School, then Ranger School, and then go infantry. But I wanted to go to law school. And so they took away the regular Army commission. I tell you all that because as a soldier, we're trained to have situational awareness. So during this entire time, I'm feeling very embarrassed, very humble, listening to all of you, very kind things, but I'm trying to avoid eye contact with my family because of situational awareness. They're all rolling their eyes like, him, he, Stevie. So bear with me, we're almost done. Thank you all for being here and down the hall. Some of you have been here my entire life, most of you for years, and some of you for a really long time. To my law partners, Chris, Jeff, Mark, and the Chief Justice, thank you. And I'll return to you in just a moment. To my family, this conglomeration right here, they all got their ankle bracelets temporarily removed to be here. To my sisters Kathy and Patty and their families, my brother Mike and his family, everyone seated right out there, the Davids, the Leslies, the Crafts, the Urbans, my son Colin King, my daughter Danielle Burrows, Colleen, yes, Scott and Yvonne, my second parents from actual Ogleville, Indiana. Catherine's mom and dad couldn't be here today because of her mother's emergency surgery. I mean, come on, it's my party. Love you, hope you're doing well. We'll see you soon. Catherine's brother and his family are in Tennessee. Distinguished guests, friends, colleagues, thank you so much for all that you have done for me, and to my real law partner and wife, Catherine, my best friend. I guess it's about time for that next chapter, right? So I do want you to know, all of you, that I am retiring from the court. It's why, you might ask. It's very simple. I was the first one in my family to go to college. I was the first one in my family to go to law school. I told you I wanted to be a lawyer. Didn't know exactly how you got there, but I wanted to be a lawyer. That was 40 years ago. Now, 40 years later, there's 4 lawyers in my family. In this room, there are 3 of the 4. There's, in California, my niece Patricia. Here is my niece Lindsay David, attorney with Lewis & Wagner. Of course, Commander Catherine Pulley, United States Navy JAG Corps, by name request, General Counsel for the 2-star admiral that commands the entire United States Navy Reserve of 100,000, 10, 15, I don't know, 1,000 people. So now there are 4 lawyers in my family, and I'm the worst of the 4. And heck, I'm not even the best lawyer in my own home, so I'm retiring. That's just the way it goes. She's 100 times better a lawyer and 1,000 times better person. I'm retiring from the court to move on and get out of the way. We wouldn't be here today but for the extraordinary efforts of Catherine Dolan and her team, including Sarah Kidwell. Where's Sarah? She's probably running around outside. Sarah's over here. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Catherine. And special thank you to the best judicial administrator in the world, bar none, my former bailiff in Boone County, and my judicial administrator, Sandy Knox. Where's Sandy? There she is. Oh, gosh. I'm going to try to get through this without crying. Sandy, you've been my everything, and I would not have been able to be half the things, not able to be half the person I am, nor receive credit for half the things that I've done without your steadfast taking care of me and keeping me out of trouble as best you can with what little you had to work with. Most of all, I value you for your friendship, and it's been great. And don't cry, and I can't make eye contact. 12 years ago, I was sat here, or no, I actually sat over there, and I quoted Kenny Chesney lyrics, something in fact, the song "I Didn't Get Here Alone," right? That was true then, and it's certainly more than true now. So thanks to all of you here and down the hall. Last year, when my brother Michael was inducted into the Indiana Golf Hall of Fame, he talked about our mom and dad and what they meant to our family and the lessons they taught us. Our father was here 12 years ago, and he's not here today in person, but he and Mom are watching from above, so in spirit. Today is a big deal about a guy who doesn't deserve a big deal and really doesn't want this attention, and I don't do attention well, certainly don't do surprises well. I've realized I'm an introvert trapped in an extrovert's world, so just struggling as best I can. Everything that I've done, everything that I've ever been a small part of has been because of other people. That's why there's so many of you here, that in part, and the other part is to make sure I'm actually leaving, and then the party actually starts. It's been a marvelous adventure, soldier, lawyer, judge, and justice. Thank you, Pastor Rob, for being here. We're looking forward to our trip. You and your wife Susan, Catherine and I, and 40 other people we've never met, but that's okay. It's going to be good. In less than a month, so that's exciting. Kermit, thank you for being such a great friend for so many years and for your spectacular military service and career with LexisNexis. You and Colonel Dale, where's Colonel Dale? There he is, my good friend and Judge Colonel Kit Crane. Where's Judge Colonel Kit Crane? There you are. And I served, the 3 of us served together in the Army in different capacities for many, many years. Kit went from private to colonel, from public defender to prosecutor to judge. All 4 of us have served at Guantanamo Bay, and you add Commander Pulley, it makes 5. What she didn't tell you, she was on the other side, so we did not get along. We did not get along. It was not friendly, not happy, not good, but it's turned out okay down the road. Although we served in different roles, sometimes aligned and sometimes not so much, and some of us, at least one of us, often maligned, our duty to our country and the rule of law was first and foremost. So many judicial officers are here, so many Bar Association members are here. Judge Delahanty, thank you, and thank you to all my brothers and sisters in this room and down the hall who serve as judicial officers, most frequently in the trial courts. There is absolutely no harder job, no higher highs, no lower lows, not a more stressful job than being a trial judge. Judge Kincaid, thank you for all that you have done and all that you did to make the Boone County event, the last oral argument, my last oral argument, everything in Boone County, that homecoming, so great. Great people make great judges, and we have a ton of them. I was a trial judge for over 16 years, judge of the Boone County Circuit Court, and I got to serve the citizens of Boone County. I thought that was just the best job ever. I ran with the support of my family, and none of which lived in Boone County, except Colleen, a few close friends. Tom Easterday is here. Where's Tom? Tom Easterday, Tom Wheeler. Tom Easterday was my campaign manager. I had very little support. Did I tell you it was mostly just the family? We campaigned, we handed out shirts, candy, knocked on doors, got chased off porches, marched in parades, handed out stickers, and we won. So thank you to my family for that tremendous effort. Danielle and Colin, I am so happy to have been just a little bit of got to join your life and be a part of it to this day. Your mom did a hell of a job, and I just kind of was along for the ride. Thank you for believing in me, and thank you for being family, always. I could not be more proud of two young people, although you're getting a little older, but I'm not, but that's okay. We ran, and we won, didn't we, Colleen? Yep. The lesson there is you can't win if you don't try. So you fast forward, 16 years later, 20,000 cases. Justice Bohm announces retirement. Catherine says, Steve, actually she said, Stephen, have you thought about applying? And I said something like, this is very true. Seriously? I don't know the governor. I'm not wired politically, and I don't have any money. Catherine said, well, with that attitude, I can imagine you won't get selected. So we talked about it, and I talked to a few people, John Baker, Fred Crow, Tom and Deb Easterday, some others, many of which are here. Most of you were very honest and said, there's no way. Some of you lied to me and said, you know, if you were selected, you'd do a pretty good job, but there's no way. But we did it. Catherine did all the heavy lifting with the application, all the hard work. She tried as best she could to prepare me for the interview and make me smarter. She tried. She did the best she could with what she had. But we got here somehow. Former Chief Justice Shepard, former Chief Justice Dixon, Justice Sullivan, and Rucker were nothing short of amazingly helpful, and I've had a great run for the last 12 years. As Darren alluded to, Chief Justice Shepard said to all of his trial court judges and our tremendous appellate court judges, do more, do more, do more. And I think we've done a pretty fine job of following your lead, Your Honor. So I hope you're proud of all of us. He said, convene, collaborate, and make lives better for all Hoosiers. I've done my best, Your Honor. Thank you all. Professor Justice Sullivan has become the most popular and one of the, if not the most coveted professors at McKinney. He's found his second calling, or third or fourth, because he's had this crazy, wild, successful career. And Justice Rucker, Justice Sullivan, thank you for being such a good friend. It was Justice Sullivan and Judge Maggie Robb, great friends, great mentors, meant so much to me and so much of a difference, got me involved in the Appellate Judges Education Institute and the Appellate Judges Conference. That's not exactly true. They didn't get me involved. They said, you will be involved. You will do this. And I followed orders because that's what soldiers do. Justice Rucker, I know you're watching from your home on the golf course in Florida. We salute you, my friend. I salute you, my friend. You are a real American hero. Bronze Star, Purple Heart. But you're our friend, and you are a great colleague, and we miss you terribly. Mr. President Clay Miller and Executive Director Joe Skill, thank you, and thank you to the ISBA staff and members. We virtually shut down that office today, and that's a good thing every once in a while. In addition to the current presidents of the ISBA, I think we've got every past president of the Indiana State Bar Association, probably here to see Catherine, not me, but that's okay. I would ask you to stand, but we're already over time, and I've got another 45 minutes. No, I'm wrapping up. She said I could have as much time. You've all mentored me. One of you gave me my first job, Rich Enan, law clerk, then as a law associate. Did I ever make partner? Probably not. If it was limited, but that's okay too. And have been a great friend for 43 years. Where's Eric Chickadance? Where's Eric? Eric, thank you. Thank you for having this wild idea of the Leadership Development Academy and bringing it to Indiana and handing it to Catherine Pulley and saying, make this happen, and allowing me to be a small part in that. Thank you to the Indiana Bar Foundation, Chuck Dunlap's here, and everybody. Justin, thank you for speaking on behalf of my trusted, respected, wonderfully talented legal advisors. I don't like law clerk. You're legal advisors. You're my general counsel. Joseph, Seema, John, Justin, Michelle, Stephen, Alyssa, Melissa, Mitch, Jacob, Elizabeth, Colleen. I think I've had 12 in 10 years. Simple expectation, absolute honesty, and absolute loyalty. It's not mutually exclusive. Our obligation critical. Our mission simple. No agenda. Just get it right. All incredible people who care so much and have given so much and have made me a better person. Heck, Michelle, how long did we serve together? 7 years? 6 years and 11 months good, or 6 years, 11 months bad for you, but you made it. You did it. Thank you. We taught together, 200 night students. The 12 of us, plus myself, the 12 of them plus me, mentored over 75 externs, 140 plus opinions, large number of initiatives, over 550 presentations. You all are incredible, and I love you very much, and I'm so proud of you. I've learned so much from all of you and feel as if you are family. The JNC is here, past and present. You do such awesome work with so much responsibility. You sent 3 amazingly wonderful people to the governor for consideration for my vacancy. Justin Faulkner, Judge Dana Kenworthy, and Derek Moulter. We knew when you submitted those 3 names, and there were many qualified, talented, but you sent 3 superb candidates. We knew right then that the Indiana Supreme Court was not only going to be different, but better. So congratulations, Justice selected, starting soon, Judge Moulter, Your Honor, sir. Thank you to all the organizations that I've had an opportunity to serve with, the different bar associations, commissions, committees, people. Special shout out to Anka Henshaw for trusting me to be your co-host on the ISBA and 33 other organizations, including the Supreme Court, Indiana Court of Appeals, Indiana Judge Association sponsoring of open conversations on race and racism. And thank you again, Catherine, for coming up with the idea, directing it, and for Kristen Owens for making it happen. Thousands of people have seen that program. It's won 2 national awards. All we want to do is get people talking and listening and make our state better. We should not be afraid of our history. We should learn from it, grow, and change for the better. If we are afraid to learn, grow, and change for the better, we're most certainly doomed. Simply stated, it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have had to happen to you for it to matter to you. To my colleagues, Loretta, Mark, Jeff, and Chris, and that is the last time I will refer to you as Loretta, Mark, Jeff, and Chris. It will be your honors, Justice Goff, Justice Slaughter, Chief Justice Rush, Justice Massa, and Justice Moulter. You have my profound respect and admiration. No one can ever appreciate what an honor and a privilege it's been to be your colleague, your friend, and a mentee of all of you. Chris, you are about to no longer be the youngster anymore. You are a great trial court judge. You are a great friend. You are the epitome of the American dream. Keep dreaming. Broaden some of your reality TV viewing, however. I love you, man. And remember that one of the finalists when you were selected was Judge Matt Kincaid. And Judge Matt Kincaid and I are two of your biggest fans. Keep that with you every day. Jeff, thank you for being you, for enlightening me, for making me a better person, a better judicial officer, for sharing part of your life with me, allowing me to get to know you, and for being so open and so real, and for being a cat person. That's okay. Mark. Hockey, golf, pick a sport for crying out loud. And yes, I remember you've been looking forward to this day, looking forward to this day. You're excited. Just a few more minutes, and I will introduce you to my brother, Mike David, the one you really want to know, the legendary golfer and IGA executive director. Just a few minutes, I promise, okay? Seriously, we have been through a lot together. Good times, great times, not so great times. We've lost our fathers together, and that's hard, and it's still hard. You are moving to the chair next to the Chief Justice. Be a great wingman, please, to the best Chief Justice anywhere. I know you are more than up to the task. Chief, we have known each other longer than a long time as young, new, flailing trial judges, as older, new, flailing, I said flailing, not failing, Supreme Court justices. We have laughed together, laughed at each other, cried together, yelled at each other once, twice. You and Mark and I, to my knowledge, are the only three Supreme Court justices ever in the history of the United States of America to compete together on one sprint triathlon relay team. One time. Some say we were last at Eagle Creek. I disagree. I dissent. But we did it. You are a great friend, a trusted friend, an honest friend, and sometimes a frustrating friend, but always, always less than I frustrated you. You've always been there for me. You've always supported me, and together, along with many, many other people, flat out, we've done some great stuff for this state, and you all will continue to do great stuff with your new partner. Many will never, ever know or fully appreciate all that you've done for this state and for our nation and our system of justice and all that you continue to do behind the scenes. Thank you for allowing me to be me and making me a better person. And again, most of all, thank you for your friendship. The five of us and our spouses had dinner last night at Jim and the CJ's house. It's one of my best, if not my best, memory of the court the last 12 years. It slightly pushes aside the memory of Mark coming out of the water at Eagle Creek because he swam the first leg, the swim, and coming out on the beach, and I looked at him and he had this I hate Steve David look for getting me into this, but you did it. I can't believe I convinced you to do that. You're all here today, those of you viewing online and others who have been in my life along the way, and those family members and close friends, some of which have passed and left upon me an indelible and undeniable impact. What I am today is the sum total of all of you and all of them. I'm a work in progress. It's been alluded to several times, so I guess it's true. But anything I've ever done, whatever contributions I've made, have been shared with all of you and all of them. What am I going to do next, you might wonder? Well, I'm going to be a senior judge, as someone will have me. I've been approved to be a senior judge by the JQC. So I'm going to return to the trial court somewhere, again, if someone will have me. I'm going to complete some very important work for the court as a senior judge, not as a justice. What else do you curiously or nervously ask? Well, I'm going to become a small business owner. It may turn out being a very small business, but going to launch S. David Mediations and Solutions. Colin's finishing up the website, do a little mediation, a little legal consulting, a little private judging, maybe very little, some coaching, some public speaking, writing, and whatnot. I've already, we haven't signed a deal this morning, but we talked this morning and he's here. Where's Greg Stubbe? Another true American hero, author of Conquer Anything, A Green Beret's Guide to Building Your A-Team, television host, just a wonderful human being. Most importantly, get to call him a friend. Actually likes Catherine more, but that's okay, I'll take second. He wrote this book, Greg Stubbe with Frank Miniter. We're going to replace Frank. His next book's going to be Greg Stubbe with Steve David, small font. Right? Right? Promise? Okay. If you haven't read this book, you read this book. I've got two high school graduates, two fellow high school graduates. Congressman Pence, class of 75. Where's Judge Lloyd? Mark Lloyd, retired Johnson Circuit Court Judge. Where are you, Mark? There you are. Class of 75. I'm glad the two of you have been successful. We're extremely fortunate to live where we live and enjoy the standard of living and the freedoms we have. There are 8 billion people in the world, 6.5 in Indiana. We're pretty gosh darn lucky. I'm asking you, I told you what I'm going to do. I'm asking you, what are you going to do next? What's your dream? Live it. You're all overachievers, achieve a little bit more. I challenge you to do a little bit more for other people. Maybe slow down just a bit and talk to that person you've never really spoken to, or you know but you really don't know. Focus a wee bit more on your to-be list and a wee bit less on your to-do list. Maybe listen a little bit more. Maybe agree with someone that you are reluctant to agree with. At least listen respectfully. Or how about this one? Ask someone what they think and why they think what they think, and have a real conversation. Catherine's not in uniform today. Colin served in uniform. Many of you have served in uniform. I'm not asking you to enlist. My point is, we all have an opportunity to be soldiers and sailors. We all have an opportunity to serve this state and our country in any capacity, to embrace the rule of law, hold dear the rule of law. You don't have to be an attorney to do it. You don't have to be a judge to do it. This morning I told Catherine I'm really nervous about what's next. And she said, as only she can say, you didn't know anything about being a trial court judge, and that turned out okay. You didn't know anything about being chief defense counsel, and that turned out okay. You didn't know anything about being Supreme Court justice. The jury's still out on that one. But I think you need to worry less and just be you. That's pretty good advice. And did I tell you, Catherine and I are climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in January? We are. And another Ironman next year. Well, that's another story. Hey, thank you again for being here. I've done my best because I have worked with and for the very best. May God bless all of you. Thank you for being here.
And yes, we could hear you down in the House and Senate. Thank you. Well, Steve, this is a small token from the court. You want to pull it out and read it?
Is it a wine glass? That's beautiful. It has the seal of the court. Justice Stephen H. David, for your service to the people of Indiana, October 2010 to August 2022. You are a tireless champion of justice. Thank you all. Thank you.
Put it where the light can shine through on it. Reverend Fuqua, could you come up and close us out with a prayer?
Steve, I want to just say before the prayer that your work has been a ministry. I know lawyers don't get accused too often as being ministers, but ministry is more than just a profession with reverend in front of the name. God desires all people to be in ministry, whatever they do. You have been in ministry in the way you have served as a judge and as a justice. You have honored your family. You've honored the people of Indiana. You've honored yourself. And you have honored God. Let us stand for our blessing. Let us pray. Oh God, bless us as we go forth, and bless particularly Justice David and Catherine as they begin a new chapter of life. Bless them as they continue to serve you and allow the gifts you have given them to find expression in the blessing of others. Bless their family with many years ahead full of happiness, prosperity, and peace. Keep them in your favor, guard them in your love, and guide them with your grace. And bless each of us as we depart to live in such a way that we find meaning and joy in allowing our lives to be spent in service to others, so that when we come to the end of our careers, our endeavors, and one day our very own lives, we too may have lived in such a way that others are inspired to give thanks and praise to you. In the many holy names, which we call you in our various faiths, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, on behalf of Justice David, my colleagues on the court, thank you all for making the time, the effort to be here to celebrate on this wonderful day in recognition of such a superb man. So, Sheriff Joe Dowdell, it's your moment. You want to adjourn us?
All right.
Please join us for reception. There's also a court times. There's a commemorative edition on all the tables recognizing Justice David. So, please enjoy.